If a man is not leading his relationship, guess what? Somebody else will. And nope, that does not automatically mean another man. That's not what I'm talking about. More often than not, it means that the woman is now going to be forced into that role, but not because she wants to, not because she's power hungry, and not because she woke up one day and decided that she wanted to dominate, emasculate, or control her partner, because chaos demands order, right? And nature always fills a vacuum. When there's no direction, somebody has to organize the mess. When there's no steadiness, something has to stabilize the system. And when there's no leadership, someone becomes the backbone just to keep everything from collapsing. And when that backbone isn't the man, the woman steps in. But it doesn't feel good. It feels necessary, like she has to. She has no choice. And that distinction matters more than most people realize. This is the vacuum that nobody talks about. Every relationship has an energetic structure, whether you acknowledge it or not. Somebody sets the tone, someone regulates the climate, and somebody holds direction when things get uncomfortable. And when a man avoids that responsibility, the relationship doesn't become equal, it becomes unstable. Because neutrality is not safety, indecision is not peace, and avoidance is not kindness. A man who refuses to lead doesn't create freedom, he creates ambiguity. And ambiguity is one of the most stressful states the nervous system can exist in. So the system compensates, and that compensation always often comes from the woman. The default to masculine is survival, not preference. Here's the truth that gets twisted constantly in modern conversations. Women do not prefer to live in their masculine energy. They just don't. They go there when they don't feel held. When there's no plan, she plans. When there's no follow through, she compensates. When there's no emotional steadiness, guess what? She has to manage everything. She manages the logistics, the schedules, the feelings, and she manages the relationship itself. And eventually she starts managing you, him, not because she wants power, but because she doesn't trust him, you, to carry it. That trust didn't disappear overnight. It eroded slowly through inconsistency, through indecision, through passivity disguised as being easygoing, through emotional withdrawal marked as being low drama. And this is the part that men need to hear without defensiveness. So hear me out. Every time a woman is pushed into her masculine energy, attraction erodes, not in a dramatic explosion, not with screaming matches or cheating scandals, but quietly, slowly, and relentlessly. That kind of erosion doesn't show up one day until she realizes she doesn't want to be touched anymore. Men, this is how you lose her without cheating or fighting. You don't lose a woman because you messed up once. You lose her because you slowly stop showing up as a grounded presence in her life. If you're passive, if you avoid conflict at all costs, if you wait for her to decide everything, if you shut down emotionally instead of holding tension, or if you're afraid to disappoint, afraid to lead, or afraid to take a stand, you're not creating safety. You're creating uncertainty, and uncertainty activates her nervous system in a very negative way. So she steps in. She becomes the planner, the organizer, the emotional regulator, the decision maker, and the adult in the room. And then you look at her like, why is she so critical? Why does she sound annoyed all the time? Why does she feel cold? Why doesn't she want to have sex anymore? Why doesn't she talk to me anymore? All of these things. Because she's exhausted. She's not turned off by your masculinity. She's turned off by the absence of it. This is why some good men get this wrong. Many men think leadership means control. They think it means being domineering, aggressive, or rigid. So they do the opposite. They become agreeable. They defer constantly. They outsource decisions to avoid any type of conflict, and they believe that being nice will preserve the connection, but it won't. Niceness without direction is not attractive. Kindness without a backbone is not grounding. A woman does not feel safe with a man who collapses under pressure just because he doesn't want to upset her. That is not leadership. That is fear management. Sex and intimacy don't die from conflict. They die from role reversal. And this is where most couples completely miss the point. Intimacy does not die because you argue. It dies because polarity collapses. A woman cannot stay sexually open to a man that she feels like she has to manage. Desire does not coexist with responsibility, and you cannot crave somebody that you are parenting. When she is handling the plans, the emotions, the household rhythm, and the long-term direction, her body closes. But it's not to punish you. It's not to manipulate you. It's because her nervous system is just overloaded and she's tired, and it's unattractive dealing with that. Sex requires receptivity. Receptivity requires safety, and safety does not exist when it feels like she's holding everything together every single day. Women, this is not empowerment, it's burnout. This part matters just as much. If you are constantly fixing him, correcting him, coaching him, nagging him, tracking everything, carrying the emotional labor for the both of you, that is not feminine empowerment. You are going to burn out. That is survival mode. And survival mode is not soft. It's not playful, and it's not open. It is tense, guarded, and resentful. And here's an uncomfortable truth. Your resentment is not because men are bad. It is because you have been strong for too long, and maybe you just picked a weak passive beta male, because you never get to exhale. You never get to drop your guard, because you never feel held. That kind of chronic strength will harden anybody. This is not about control. It's about the famous word I always say, polarity. This conversation is not about total dominance. It's not about total submission. And it's not about outdated gender roles or power struggles. It's about polarity. Masculine and feminine create magnetism through contrast. When that polarity disappears, the desire fades, the intimacy dries up, the respect erodes, and resentment grows. A grounded man leads himself first. He regulates his emotions. He makes decisions without second guessing them. He follows through. He stays steady under pressure, and he does not outsource leadership to her moods. That creates trust, and trust is what allows a woman to soften. What leadership actually feels like to a woman. Leadership is not barking orders. It's not controlling the outcomes, and it's not being loud, harsh, or dominant. Leadership feels like this: calm direction, consistency, emotional containment, and presence without panic. It feels like somebody who can hold tension without collapsing, someone who doesn't disappear when things get uncomfortable, and someone whose nervous system doesn't hijack the relationship. When a woman feels that, she stops managing, she stops overthinking, and she stops bracing for impact. She can finally relax. And relaxation is where desire lives. What happens when he never steps up? And here's the part that people avoid because it's uncomfortable. If a man refuses to lead, avoids responsibility, or stays passive, she will lead. And if she has to lead forever, she will eventually leave. Not out of spite, not because she's rebellious, not because she gave up, but because nobody signs up to parent their partner, and that gets old very fast. She didn't commit to a project. She didn't marry a dependent. She wanted a man. Why does this trigger men and women differently? Men, if this hits your ego, good. That is your weak spot being exposed, and it's something you need to work on. But guess what? That's also where the growth starts. Women, if this made you feel angry or emotional, good. That's your body telling you how long you've been carrying way too much. Neither reaction is wrong, but both are information that you need to pay attention to. This is the alarm. This is not a threat. This is not fear-mongering. This is the alarm. You either correct the polarity or you slowly normalize dysfunction while telling yourselves that you're fine. Polarity does not negotiate. It does not bend. It does not compromise. It simply breaks what ignores it. A man who leads creates safety. A woman who feels safe can actually soften. And when both are in their natural polarity roles, the desire returns.